Hi, this is Matthew.
I'm Aaron. And today, we're talking about the one, the only, the German Hefeweizen.
A classic.
Yep. Now, this is one of three styles of Hefeweizen. We've got three mains. There's the Hefeweizen, which we're talking about right now, which is the kind of the original, middle, unfiltered version of German wheat beers. And then there's a Crystalweizen, which is a filtered version, and then there's a Dunkelweizen, which is a darker version. But this is kind of the original flavor, if you may. If you noticed, it's a 16.9 ounce bottle, which is typical of German Hefeweizens when they're imported into the United States. You can also find these a lot on draft. And to go along with it, we also have our 16.9 ounce German Hefeweizen glassware. Which we're going to pour into as well. But these beers are very, very popular beers. As a matter of fact, at most brass taps, they're within the German Hefeweizen or German style Hefeweizen is usually within, for sure within the top 5 beers. Pretty consistently, if not the top 3.
Yeah, they're wildly popular, and not only today, but historically speaking, they've been popular as well. Now, there's a couple things about this this brew or this style of brew that make it unique. Number one is that, and legally to be called a Hefeweizen, it has to use at least 50% wheat malt. Now, that's malted wheat as opposed to malted barley, which is your typical beer ingredient. And what the wheat does is it brings nice soft flavors to the party. It brings nice soft citrus. You'll get some lemon. You'll get some orange. It also leads to a very nice, easy mouthfeel, crisp, refreshing, sometimes some light tart notes, but these are traditionally a summertime or daytime type of beer.
Yeah, that's right. As a matter of fact, in some ways, this is actually the antithesis of those hoppy American craft beers. You'll find that a lot of people who don't generally enjoy even beer or American craft beer, or that nice, I say that's nice hoppy, that hoppy aspect of craft beer, generally love Hefeweizens. It's really, really hard to find someone who doesn't like a Hefeweizen.
Yeah, a couple other things that make this this beer unique. Number one is they use a very specific yeast strain. This yeast strain is very big on a couple of flavors. Number one is banana. They usually have very rich, ripe banana flavors, as well as bubblegum and also clove. They're also unfiltered, which means the yeast is still left in the bottle. They're live beers, so they're living and evolving. They've been hit with a little bit of brewer's yeast in the bottom, as well as some priming sugar to enact a secondary fermentation that takes place in the bottle. And what this causes, this makes it necessary for us to pour this beer a very specific way, which we're going to go ahead and demonstrate for you.
Excellent segue, yeah. Because of the yeast characteristics of the beer, it's important that we pay attention to the way it's poured so that the yeast really has a chance to do its magic and to really showcase itself the way it should in this type of beer.
Absolutely. So, the first part of this pour is that we want to pour the beer very slowly, or as slowly as we can, to create as little head in the initial step of the pour as possible. The reason why we're doing this is because we're going to try to essentially artificially create the head inside of the bottle and then deposit that head on top of the beer we've already poured.
And it's almost impossible to pour a beer too slowly, but it's all too easy to pour a beer too fast, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we're going to take our sweet time pouring the first part of this pour into the bottle. And then what you want to do is when you have about, 3 ounces left in the bottle, 3 ounces or so, then you're going to give it a nice vigorous roll to agitate that yeast. So I'm going to check to see. I still got a ways to go. Looks like Matthew's a little bit further ahead of me. This is one of the more fun beers to pour once you get the hang of it.
That's pretty good.
All right, I'll pour just a little bit more.
So, in my bottle, I have about that much beer left, which is right about 2 ounces, 2 to 3 ounces. Now, what we're going to do here is I'm going to support the back of the bottle with my left hand, and I'm right-handed, so I'm going to use my right hand as my action hand. My left hand is my support hand, and we're going to lean the bottles over close to about an 80-degree angle, okay? Pretty extreme angle. And the reason why we're going to do that is twofold. Number one is we're going to be collecting up all of the yeast that may have been deposited along the side of the bottle during the initial pour. Then we're going to start to vigorously spin the bottle. And what that's going to do is it's going to take all of that liquid and it's going to create a foamy and frothy head inside of the bottle. We're going to give it a quick little shake when we're confident that all of our liquid has now become head, and then we're going to dump it directly on top of our beer in the glass.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Now this glassware is also pretty well designed to fit the excess head that comes from the beer. That's why we do this. So there's many, many ways to do it. I know I've seen some people roll it on a table. When you're doing this, you just want to make sure that you keep your germ digits away as much as you can from the neck, from the bottle.
Absolutely.
No one wants to taste what Matthew's fingers smell like. All right,
and then when you're confident that all of the beer is now foam, go ahead and give it a little wiggle, and then you just dump it right on top. And if you've done this right, you should really have to tap the bottom of the bottle, much like a ketchup bottle, in order to deposit all of the head into the beer.
And then after you do that, you can actually see how the physical properties of the beer change. You can see, I'm not sure if the camera's picking this up, but you can see how the cloudiness really, really rains down once you get that extra yeast in the bottle. All right. So now that we've poured the beers, let's go ahead and take a look at it. So this one to me looks a little bit darker than some of the Hefeweizens that I've seen, but definitely true to style. It's a very, very unfiltered beer.
Yeah, you get it ranges in color as my glass gets thinner. The beer itself gets a little bit lighter as the light has to travel through less sediment to reach my eye. Now we get it ranges kind of from like a really kind of a beautiful golden copper color, and it gets a little bit lighter and becomes more of this kind of raw honey color as well. And Schneider and Sons, which incidentally is the beer that we're drinking, is really known for this coloring of their beer. Now this is, like Aaron said, a little bit on the darker side from most Hefeweizens, but it's still within the absolutely appropriate SRM range. All right, let's go ahead and stick our nose in this one.
Sure. To me, this is where a Hefeweizen really, really shines. You're getting very, very bright, very, very bright aromas.
Yeah, a lot of banana mixed with clove.
Sweetness, a lot of fruit.
Yep, there's some peach. There's a little bit of pear. I get that almost like a juicy pink bubble gum.
Yeah, that bubble gum aroma is very, very common in Hefeweizens, and you almost don't notice it until someone says it. Then someone says, "Oh, do you smell the bubble gum?" And then it's right there. It's almost exactly like a juicy fruit bubble gum. And I've noticed, depending on the different types of Hefeweizens you're having, this one, like we said earlier, Schneider and Son Schneiderweiss from Germany. Depending on the different Hefeweizens, it's almost a different pack of gum.
Sure.
Whether it's the zebra-striped one, what were those called? Zebra-striped,
Stripes,
whatever.
yeah.
Or Big League Chew
Sure.
is another one, depending on the type. And that comes from the yeast that's used. And really the only way you're going to be able to access these wonderful aromas is making sure that you do the correct pour.
Absolutely. And another thing that makes Hefeweizens in general unique is that they're so yeast driven when it comes to aroma and flavor. So many other styles of beer depend on, predominantly depend on the malts or the hops. And yeast is kind of the tertiary ingredient, if you will. But in Hefeweizens, it's really the primary flavor and aroma producing ingredient, which really is kind of a fun experiment to really kind of delve into what yeast can bring to the table in terms of your palate. So let's go ahead and check this one out and see what we think about it.
Cheers. I get a lot of that bubblegum flavoring carrying over to the taste.
Yeah, there's touches of toasted bread. There's some black pepper, white pepper. There's a little bit of clove. Soft on the back end. I'm getting really some soft citrus. I like kind of like a lemon zest. A little bit of like tangerine or orange. Just very soft, easygoing citrus flavors. And they're not bitter citrus like you tend to get from some of your American styles of hops. It's very soft, easy, very accessible types of fruit.
Yeah, I think soft is the key word, and it's very rounded as well. I'm assuming that comes from the water source. I'm not sure exactly if this style is supposed to have hard water or soft water, but this definitely, to me, tastes like it's brewed with soft water, that the source of the water is soft water.
Lacks that minerality and that kind of almost, sometimes you can get almost a metallic taste from certain types of water that are used in brewing. And this, as you said, is very rounded, very soft, mild, easy, and very, very refreshing. It's got just a touch of dryness, a lot of carbonation, as you can see from our pouring demonstration. It's a heavily carbonated beer, which really does a lot in terms of scrubbing your palate, and refreshing your palate in general.
Yeah, and this is only 5.4%, so it's a very sessionable beer. Even though it looks like these are giant bottles, we keep saying, or giant bottles and giant glasses, we keep saying it's 16.9 ounces. Well, regular pint glasses, at a brass tap, we do a true pint glass. So it's only 16 ounces anyway. So when you're talking about 16.9, we're talking about less than an ounce more than a standard pint glass. Sure. It's just the shape of the glass that gives it that misleading feeling that it's, 2 beers in one. It's not. Now, we touched a little bit earlier on the shape of the glass, as far as its function and head retention. Also, the shape of the glass is important as far as heat transfer. Because these were brewed to be consumed on hot summer days originally, you didn't want to do the beer any favors by transferring more heat than necessary.
That's right.
That's why down here it's more tapered, so there's less surface area on your hand to warm the beer between your skin and your hand. It's one of those things that you really, if you don't think about it, it is really easy to fall in the trap of just that beer warming up just from your hands.
Absolutely.
But it makes a difference.
It sure does. As opposed, all I have to do is grab it with my fingertips. I don't have to wrap it. It's a nice thin, so it almost feels uncomfortable to have complete contact with my hands.
Yeah.
This feels like the natural position in which to hold this glass, which is exactly why the glass is designed this way. Keep the beer cold, keep it refreshing, so that when you are drinking it in the Bavarian summertime heat, it's going to maintain its quality through the duration of your session.
Yeah. And if you notice, even though we're drinking from stylistically appropriate German Hefeweizen glasses, we're drinking Schneiderweiss here, there's quite a few different German Hefeweizen producers. The one that I have is Weihenstephan. You'll also hear it pronounced Weihenstephaner, or Weihenstephan, or Gwen Stefani. Any number of those will work. People know what you're talking about. That's another popular one. This one's Tucher. They all produce a regular Hefeweizen, a Crystalweizen, a Dunkelweizen, as far as a few more styles that are wheat-based, like Weizenbock is the one, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, but overall, this is an excellent, excellent beer. It's a little dark for the style, but the flavor profile is right there. A lot of yeasty phenols, really nice, really refreshing, and overall an excellent representation of the style.
Yeah, the taste is a lot livelier than it might look right now, but it's a great, great beer, especially down here in Florida at the time of the year it is. It's summer here.
Sure.
It's a great beer to have outside and to wait for football.
Absolutely. And as Aaron mentioned, these are always one of our best sellers at the Brass Tap. These are great beers for people that are getting introduced to craft beer. They've got a little bit of sweetness, some recognizable fruits. There's absolutely no off-putting flavors in these beers. They're light, they're easy, they're refreshing, and it's a cool and fun word to say. They come in beautiful glassware. In fact, in my opinion, this is probably the sexiest style of glassware that we carry at the Brass Tap. They're just very, very accessible, very people-friendly beers, if you will.
Yeah, they're approachable. And if you've had someone who has never had a craft beer before, you definitely are not going wrong having them at least try a taste of a Hefeweizen. Whatever Hefeweizen your Brass Tap carries, it's going to be more than one between draft and bottle. You won't go wrong there. You always want to make sure that you offer them a taste of a Hefeweizen. More likely they're not. They're going to get their feet wet with craft beer with a Hefeweizen first.
Absolutely. So, cheers, buddy.
All right, cheers.